now at what went wrong for the Democrats? Hang on, how long have we got on this? We've got like 1,040 years left on the recording time.
The press wanted Trump. Like the press likes the spectacle. You saw this in the Washington Post, not making an endorsement for the first time. They were like really inexplicably hard on Kamala Harris on policy details, and then they would like both sides the policy arguments. For example, there would be these multiple news articles I saw that were like, let's look at the Trump and Harris housing policies. To lower housing costs, Harris wants to build 1 million homes. Trump wants to deport 1 million people. Let's have economists weigh in. She thinks she can lower housing costs by increasing supply of new homes affordable to middle class people. He thinks he can lower housing costs by decreasing demand by moving immigrants living in homes into detention facilities. Economists weigh in. And no one was like, uh, these immigrants are not like starting all cash bidding wars to run up the price of the McMansion in the suburbs with the wraparound deck that you've been yearning for. So the press wanted Trump. The Democrats put all this energy into looking for the elusive mythical Republican crossover voter. They don't exist. They get these Republican elites to endorse them, but Republican voters just vote for Republicans. It never works. Like they were really pushing that Liz Cheney was supporting Harris. Now, no one likes Liz Cheney. She was a congressperson from Wyoming, the least populated state in America. No one is there. Liz Cheney doesn't deliver Republican votes. She doesn't even deliver all of the Cheneys. Um, and so the and there was like and the campaign ads I just felt like were not like I didn't relate to there were so many campaigns and I didn't relate to them. Like the campaigns always had like sparks like in a factory or a welding situation, and then there was a field and some like hardworking salt of the earth American and a healthcare worker, and I yearn for an ad that is targeted for me. You know what I mean? Just like a middle-aged dad in pajamas sitting in a comfy chair, staring vaguely into space. It's just like, vote for us so you get some quiet. Um, so, and here's my my sincere and perhaps not funny analysis that when it comes right down to it, is that the America that Trump represents a fascist threat, and historically, the left fights fascism. Centrist liberals on their own do not fight fascism. You know what I mean? Like before America entered World War II to help stop fascism, American communists and anarchists were going to Spain to fight fascism in the Abraham Lincoln Brigade. Then a few years into Pearl Harbor later, America was like, okay, fine, we'll help fight fascism. You know what I mean? Centrist liberals try to stop fascism by like crossing their arms and going humph. And centrist liberals,
Does that not always work?
it doesn't always work, Andy. Centrist liberals try to stop fascism by posting memes that say love Trump's hate, when it definitely does not, if hate is heavily armed and love is just reading poetry. But centrist liberals hate the left and have like worked so hard to crush the left, and now there's no like, they went out of their way to crush the Bernie Sanders, the AOC, Cory Bush, that wing of the party, to attack people who were marching for Palestine, to attack people who were marching for Black Lives Matter, and that's what they got. But Andy, I have some good news.
Okay,
Are you ready
that's
for the
good.
silver lining?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It'd be very, very big and very silver.
Here's the good news.
Okay.
I actually have a few examples of good news. Good news. Trump won fair and square. No coup. We were convinced that it would be close, and Trump would I try to overthrow a government, do another January 6th, get the Supreme Court to hand it to him. We'd be in for months of upheaval and political violence and instability. It's not happening. I mean, except for there were multiple polling stations in Georgia that were closed for hours because of Russian bomb threats. But except for that, we're spared 3 months of uncertainty because we know that Trump won fair and square. So that's
Well, so
we don't have to worry.
has even Trump accepted the result? Because it was clearly a result that was not predicted by pollsters, which suggests that maybe I mean, you'd have thought as someone who is so highly tuned to electoral irregularity that he would have been absolutely up in arms about this. He's obviously learned and accepted the result with relative dignity this time. So I guess that's progress.
I mean, dignity doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence, Andy, when it comes to Trump. But
I did say relative. I did say relative.
Relative to what, I wonder. But the yeah, I mean, Trump's, it's a fair election if I win and an unfair election if I lose. That's Trump's worldview. So, but there's more good news. The Republican Party's policies will kill their own voters. Like when Robert F. Kennedy takes over public health and allows disease outbreaks in the water supply and ends vaccines, and they shoot each other up, and disaster funding's cut and people drown in floods and storms and fires, who doesn't get some schadenfreude from a good old-fashioned comeuppance? So that's some good news.
Yeah. Well, that's quite. That sounds quite biblical, and obviously we saw, how important the Christian right vote was, and maybe that actually could play quite well with them, a bit of kind of Bible nostalgia. I mean, this is one of the inexplicable things for me, Nato, how America's Christian right can so wholeheartedly vote for one of the all-time top 10 least Christian people in history. And if he'd been running for office in 0 AD. In the US presidential election that year, and my history doesn't go back that far, he would probably have praised King Herod for his highly effective anti-firstborn child policies. If he'd been running in 32 AD, he'd have been railing against woke Jesus, the fake Messiah. And yet, the American Christian right is just unquestioningly on his side. Can you? I know you're not technically a Christian. And I don't know if you're as bad a Christian as I am a Jew, given that you are a Jew. And I don't know how lapsed. Was it on Nish accused of saying that I was so lapsed that I was basically Muslim on the show earlier in the week. But this is one of the inexplicabilities of American politics to an outsider is that how the Christian right seems to support the least Christian candidate almost every time.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, I am a Jew. I'm not a Christian, but I know a decent amount about Christians because, Andy, you got to keep an eye on them. They're shifty. You got to keep an eye on the people who might try to kill you at any moment. And the thing about the Christian right is. They are voting for, like, they win either way. They get either extreme Christian values imposed on America, or they get to usher in the rapture. So they're engaged, like, you know what I mean? I participate in politics because I want things to work. Actually, I just want to offer like one tiny sliver of like personal pride, which is that there is a ballot measure in San Francisco that passed. It's a tiny issue that I was involved in putting on the ballot and developing, and it fixes like a small loophole to give public government nurses a slightly better pension plan, and it passed. So I worked on something, we got it through.
Right. Are you not worried that this is just the small acorn, and from which within 40 or 50 years, California will be overrun by billionaire ex-nurses just rampaging uncontrolledly around your state?
Yeah, I mean, well, there is a slippery slope because nurses getting slightly better pensions, and then because of their ability to vote, and then having expectations that they not be treated like shit in every other way,
right?
And you got to put that back in the bottle.
Yeah.
So, but I have more good news.
Okay,
Trump will die in office.
Right.
So he's like, we thought Ronald Reagan was sundowning in office, and then there was this like Republican anti-Trump campaign ad that had Reagan's words juxtaposed with Trump's words, and it was horrifying. Ronald next to Trump, Reagan, like, we made fun of him for being stupid and inarticulate at the time, but next to Trump, Reagan sounded like Oscar Wilde talking to Slimer from the Ghostbusters. So there's a Yiddish folktale that I had in a children's book when I was a kid called "It Could Always Be Worse," and it's like Trump is a rapist, kleptocrat, anti-democratic bigot. Wait, there's more. Also, cognitive decline. So, and then the last bit of good news, Andy, is that yesterday I got a call from the urologist, and I might have cancer. So I have to go get a prostate biopsy, and if I have to drop everything to focus on chemo, that's great news for me.
Right.
If I can't pay attention to the news, in case I have cancer, that's something I'm looking forward to.
Right. Well, I mean, we find positives in the strangest places, Nato, and that's a pretty strange place. So
I'm getting notes from people in Cuba being like, are you Cuba, where there's no food or electricity right now? People are sending me notes being like, are you okay? Do you need to get out?